You have felt it. The quiet burn of being underestimated in a debate, knowing you see a pattern the room cannot. They call it arrogance. But what if the most effective tool for building that pattern is not a complex mental technique, but a simple daily habit geniuses have sworn by for centuries? A habit that the therapeutic industry keeps in the shadows because it undermines their entire model. We are about to pull back the curtain on the one daily walk. Einstein wrote in 1912 that a long walk cleared his mind and led to his most fruitful ideas. But here's what nobody talks about. The walk itself is not the mechanism. The walk is the ritual that triggers a cognitive state which cannot be forced while sitting. You are about to see why the quiet ones in the corner always find the answer on the asphalt, not in the lab. But that is only the beginning. Most people believe that creativity strikes like a lightning bolt, or that it requires a locked room and a whiteboard. They assume genius is about raw processing power, that a high IQ simply solves problems faster. But the longitudinal studies from Lubinsky and Benbow at Vanderbilt show something else entirely. The Terman study tracked gifted individuals for decades and found that raw intelligence alone did not predict real-world impact. The predictor was something far more mundane, the ability to enter a state of deep, unstructured thought. If this revelation unsettles you, that raw intelligence is not the engine, then stay with us. Subscribe to Follow the Architecture that explains why the quiet ones in the corner keep finding answers the room overlooks. And in the comments, tell us the last time you felt that state of deep, unstructured thought, the moment the lens first clicked into place. If you have ever felt that quiet burn of knowing you're operating at a different layer, you already recognize this. The fluorescent hum of an office, the silent gap across a meeting table, where everyone is waiting for a solution you have already seen. You know the feeling of being the one who says nothing because the answer is too simple to voice. Now consider this. The walk is not just a break. It is a deliberate method for filtering noise. Darwin kept a walking journal on the Beagle, noting that the regular walk along the shore stimulated his observations of natural variation. He did not write down his theories in a library. He walked the coastline, letting the rhythm of his feet break the mental groove he was stuck in. The groove of sitting, staring, and forcing a solution is the enemy of the cognitive lens. Darwin knew that the signal he needed was only accessible when he changed the frequency. Here's the part that disrupts everything you have been told. The neural efficiency paradox, revealed directly by Heyer's PET scan studies, shows that expert brains are less active than novice brains during problem solving. They are using less energy, not more. The walk is a shortcut to that state of neural efficiency. It forces the brain to idle, to stop the constant internal chatter of self-doubt and social performance. Tesla walked 3 miles each evening to let his mind settle. Without that walk, his inventions stalled. But here's something most people never consider. The therapeutic industry has known about the power of walking for decades. A 2021 study in the Journal of Affective Disorders found that people who walked at least 5 days per week had 23% lower odds of clinically significant anxiety. A 2022 APA poll showed that 68% of mental health professionals acknowledge walking therapy as effective, but only 23% actively prescribe it. Why? Because there is no patent on a walk. You cannot bill someone for $180 an hour to walk down the street. The entire model of therapy is built on a transaction, and the walk is free. It cannot be monetized. It does not require a couch or a degree. It requires a pair of shoes and the courage to let your mind wander without a filter. You have felt this. When the system rewards speed over depth, and you are the only one who notices. If you have ever felt the burn of being the only one who notices while the system rewards speed, you are not alone. You are part of a minority that sees the filter. Subscribe to continue walking through the architecture of minds that refuse the transaction. And in the comments, share a time you recognize that the system was hiding a free truth. Put your notebook down. Stop trying to prove it outwardly. The mechanism is not about walking itself, but about what the walk allows you to exclude. Nietzsche wrote about the pathos of distance as a cognitive filter. Every step is a rejection of noise. Every silent moment is a built threshold that blocks the world's signal. Virginia Woolf said her daily morning walk through the garden was the only time she could hear her own thoughts without the clamor of society. She was not walking for exercise. She was walking to inherit her own lens. The architecture of the genius mind is not a supercomputer. It is a finely tuned gate that lets only the relevant pattern through. And the walk is how the gate is oiled. The cost of this inheritance is isolation. Once you see through the lens, you cannot unsee what the room refuses to notice. The gap between you and others becomes permanent, but that gap is the source of your depth. Now here's the answer to the question we opened with. The one daily habit is not the walk. It is the deliberate release of control. It is the choice to step away from the desk and allow the brain to do its best work in the background without the pressure of performance. The walk is the trigger for a state of cognitive disinhibition, where the prefrontal cortex steps back and the default mode network takes over. That is where the pattern emerges. Einstein got his best ideas while shaving, not in the lab. Because the lab is a place of effort, and the bathroom is a place of release. Leonardo da Vinci recorded in the Codex Atlanticus that walking while sketching awakened his imagination. He knew that the body's motion generates a mental state that the chair cannot provide. The paradox is resolved. Genius is not about having a better lens, but about being willing to live with what the lens excludes. The paradox is now yours. Genius is not about the lens you own, but the willingness to live without what it blocks. If you are ready to build that filter, subscribe to inherit the next layer of this architecture. The quiet ones in the corner are building a cathedral, and you have the blueprint. In the comments, name one thing you are choosing to exclude today, so the pattern can emerge. The lens is built, one exclusion at a time, and you are already holding the first piece. The quiet ones in the corner, the observers who feel the burn of being underestimated. They are not inferior. They are operating at a different layer. They have built a filter that the world does not understand. And now you know the architecture. You know the habit. You know why the therapeutic industry refuses to admit it works. Your next step is not a louder argument. It is a sharper silence. It is the deliberate step away from the desk, the threshold you create by walking into the world, unarmed by expectation. Join the quiet ones in the corner, building their cathedral in the dark. The walk is the foundation, but the lens is yours to inherit. And the next layer is waiting for you on the path you have not yet taken.